Hello, everyone. So the other day I was reading through some comments on my YouTube channel, and I noticed a lot of comments were saying how a lot of you were feeling stuck in your 50s. And the reason for that is you're still measuring yourself to the child that you were back in the 80s, and at least many of you are. And in this video, I want to show you how you can get rid of those old expectations because they're outdated, and how you can let them go and help free your mind and everything to grow a little more in your 50s. Hi, I'm Raz, the semi-retired samurai. I talk about reinvention in our 50s, and especially the Gen X generation. Now, what I was observing when I was going through these comments was a lot of people felt that they were behind in life, and they were following a plan that they had created for themselves when they were younger, back in the 80s when they were in school. And a lot of those plans now no longer fit your life. And I think it's important to consider that maybe a lot of these plans that you had when you were younger, these dreams, are maybe outdated because your values and what you thought you wanted when you were younger probably has changed quite a bit in terms of what you value and what you think is important. And I always remember, when I was growing up, the classic school assignment. They would say, what do you want to be when you grow up and why? And, a lot of kids would always say, I want to be a fireman, or I want to be an astronaut or something like that. And, that's the beauty of being young, because your mind was free to wander and dream what you want to do. And as a child, I always daydreamed all the time because I wasn't particularly fond of school. So I daydreamed about what life would look as an adult. And for me growing up, not having a lot of money and, family struggling financially, I always dreamed every day of a better life and what it would be like to live, on the other side of the fence where people had a stable home and money coming in and were able to enjoy vacations with their family. So that was always on my mind ever since I was a little kid. And, I always were, thought that there was a script that you follow, and once you follow it, that everything will work out for you in the end, right? What you dreamed about. So I think it's a lot of that has to do with the 80s programming that from the movies, the pop culture. I mean, the other day I was happened to come across some clips of the movie "Can't Buy Me Love," and in the movie we see that McDreamy, who's McDreamy now, played a very geeky character who wanted to a girl that the most popular girl in school, to like him. And so, she was successful. She was, her family was very successful, and, she was well to do, and she was part of the in crowd. And she had a certain amount of status in the school as well. And I guess he thought, latching on to her would give him the same status as well. So we see a lot of these movies that in the 80s that conditioned us to believe that that was a life that everyone should strive for, that everyone will have if you work for it, right? And I think it caused at least it created an expectation gap that you go out and work hard, and everything will work out for you in the end. But we realize that what the image the movies created for us wasn't exactly matching the vision that was set for us when we got older. And I think when we got older, we realized how difficult it was to make ends meet and to achieve success. And I think for a lot of people, it led to a lot of internal disappointment because as you get older, and as you get closer to the 50s, to your 50s, I think it's hard not to compare yourself along the way, to compare yourself to your peers, to maybe your high school mates, your friends, family members who maybe have did a lot better than you financially and in life, right? So I think a lot of us can't help but to help, I guess, can't help but to compare ourselves to the younger version of ourselves and what could have been, and the future that we had all imagined hasn't quite worked out the way that we expected. Maybe it hasn't worked out what everyone else expected of you, right? So we continue to measure ourselves with that perception that we had of ourselves when we were younger, right? And I want to share with you a personal story of mine, and it was many years ago. I reconnected with an old friend, and I knew this guy since when we were in all the way from grade 1 to grade 7 till he moved away. And then I ran into him in 1985 when we were about 15 years old, right? Because he had moved to another city, and I lost touch with him, but I happened to run into him at the mall, and we caught the movie Back to the Future together at the time. And that was the last time I saw him. But probably 6 years ago, he managed to reconnect with me, and we met up at a restaurant, and I was sitting there waiting for him, and he was. I remember him to be extremely bright, like very scientific. He was just had a lot of knowledge about science and all these things, and he was very good at it. And so I expected him to really flourish as an adult. So as I was waiting there, he came in, and he looked all disheveled and everything. I was just taken back, and he was just fiddling with his hands, and he said to me, "Oh, I can't believe you're here. I'm so glad to see you again," and everything. And just still a great guy. But I was just surprised. So I asked him, what have you been doing all these years, right? And I think everything was going great for him, and he got caught up in the wrong crowd and got involved with drugs, and managed to clean himself up later on. But then he got married and was divorced, went through a bad divorce, and then he was moved to another city and was living on his own again. And he wasn't as, I guess, successful from a financial standpoint and from a professional standpoint as I guess we all thought he was going to be, which was really sad. And I was really shocked by the whole thing. So I asked him, do you want to use your knowledge, your science, computers, and you love computers to build a business again and to flourish? And he said, "You know what, Raz, I think I'm too old for that, and I don't have it in me anymore. Maybe when I was younger." And it wasn't really that old, because we just turned 50, right? So it was just one of those things that really caught me off guard, because when you're growing up, you always think of these friends that you had who were going to all do well, right? And you hope that they do. And in this case, it didn't turn out the way it did. So it always, I guess, brought up a lot of, questions in my mind of how all of us started, and how some didn't start off well and ended up succeeding, and some that had everything and didn't succeed. And it was a weird feeling that I was trying to come to grips with. And I think a lot of people who are in their 50s, our generation, is thinking the same way. Is like, I didn't achieve what I wanted, and what I set out to do when I was younger, right? And I think a lot of this happens because we're more aware of the time that we have left on this earth. Because when you turn 50s, you're a little bit more risk adverse. So there's fewer opportunities to, I guess, clean up the mistakes if you do screw up or things don't work out. So you don't take a chance. You start to reflect back on, actually reflect back a lot more on your life and think about, the things that could have been. Maybe the relationship that could have worked out, maybe the opportunities that were missed and passed by that you could have taken advantage of, that could have changed the course of your life. And I think we get caught up in this identity trap that is what I dreamed of, and I have to follow through with it, right? And or even having a hard time letting go of that identity that you thought that you're going to have as you got older. So you keep on holding on to what you thought you would be, and I think this leads to a lot of lowering of the self-confidence, the feeling of defeat a lot of times. But most importantly, I think it doesn't allow you to look at the good things that happen in your life, the positive sides, and which will, in my opinion, give you room to grow in other ways. And I think if you focus too much on what you didn't become, I think you're going to miss a lot of opportunities in front of you because you're just so focused on the negative aspect. And who knows, maybe the 50s might be a time for you to excel and to thrive. I know there's famous entrepreneurs that thrive when they're in their late 50s, right? And Colonel Sanders, I mean, he became a multimillionaire at 60, right? So anything is possible. I know for myself, from my experience, for years when when I graduated from school and I left home, I really resented my parents because I worked every day when I was a kid. Like it was just nonstop, and probably 23 years of my life, I felt like I gave up my childhood just to help and work and support the family. And the bitterness actually had a very negative effect on my life because I know in my 20s when I was just trying to find myself and just to find out what I wanted to do, how I was going to make myself successful, it was weighing me down because every day was spent on thinking about the past, thinking about what childhood I didn't get. And it wasn't until I met up with some mentors, some very successful people, and I learned from them on just letting go and just focusing on the little successes in life. Every day there's little successes, This could just be just being alive, right? The simple pleasures of being able to walk and to enjoy the sunshine, right? So those little things that along the way, if you learn to appreciate these little things, then eventually, right, you will see opportunities start to arise and people that are positive start to come into your life, surprisingly, right? So what was the purpose of letting go of these outdated goals? Well, for myself, I stopped comparing myself to others, right? And I only compared myself to me. Everything I do was because I wanted to do it, and there was nothing that was going to stop me from doing whatever. Because whether it was in martial arts to win a tournament, to win certain medals, or to become the best I could be in my field, in business, everything. And if I didn't know it, then I was humble enough to go out and find and seek other people who knew more than me, right? It was not below me to go ahead and ask successful people, and I still do to this day, right? And I also want to, what I did was realign my expectations and goals. It didn't mean I lowered my standard. It just mean that, I would take baby steps towards these goals. Maybe you might want to become a very successful multimillionaire, or whatever the case may be. it's not. I think a lot of, especially the internet now, they always have these youngsters that are promoting, the get rich quick overnight, and I don't know anybody that has gone through that route unless they won a lottery. Everyone had if you every successful person that I talked to, and I've talked to some very successful people, right? Like Jack Canfield, I met many years ago, who was the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, and they all had a struggle. They all had a beginning, and I think a lot of people don't think about, like, they see the success, but they don't think about, like, the road, how tough it is to get there, and the sacrifices that were made. And I think being in our 50s is a great time to reinvent ourselves and to become who we always want to be. And so what does, redefining success mean to me or mean to you, right? For many, I think they attach success to just financial, right? But I think there's other ways of looking at success, because I see a lot of people that have really, really high net worths, but have a really horrible family life. So raising a strong family is one of my. I know one gentleman was saying that he didn't feel successful other than raising a strong family. And I told him, hey, that is success, right? You're raising a great family. You know how many people would kill to have a happy family? I know one family, I felt so sorry for them because the father worked so hard, but the kid became a drug addicted to drugs, and he had to go to rehab for years and years and years. So I think, when you look at it from that standpoint, you say to yourself, hey, I'm pretty lucky. I've got a bunch of kids that I raised that, didn't get into trouble and are doing well in life. They don't have to be, making huge amounts of money, but if they're able to support their family and take care of one another and they're happy, then, hey, all the power to them, right? The other thing that you can do to redefine success is giving back to society, because when we give to society, it gives us confidence. It makes us feel good about ourselves, right? So whether that's mentoring youth or just volunteering at a nonprofit charity, I mean, all those things. I mean, for myself, I've always had a soft spot for underprivileged youth, right? So I spent a lot of my time helping a neighborhood school that feeds kids from families that don't have much, right? And to help support programs for kids that don't have the opportunity to maybe participate in sports, or the funds to participate in sports, or the funds to participate in activities. Because when I was growing up, I didn't have that extra money that laying around to help fund for sports and so forth. So it was always a struggle to try to get my parents to pay for sports, and it was always, I know there was a lot of constant arguments because my friends were all playing sports and I didn't have an opportunity to do a lot of those things. So I think today is an opportunity for many of you who are struggling right now, is to start today. Start thinking about how I'm going to reinvent myself, and stop wishing about things that that you thought that you set out to do back when you're in your teens, and start doing things that you want to achieve. Whether it's more travel, more free time, all these things, right? And I think letting go of expectations. I think when a lot of people think about that, they think it's giving up on yourself, but it's not. It's about realigning who you are in your 50s, and to make room for the things that are important to you as a 50-year-old today, right? And for me, for example, for myself, when I was younger, I thought, getting wealthy meant like big yachts and private jets and all those things. And now it's more about freedom of my time, and enjoyment of training in the martial arts, which is what brings me plenty of joy, and to travel and to experience. So, you don't always need a bundle of money to do that, right? It could just be on the weekend, simple as going to camp, right? Or to take a weekend vacation somewhere and enjoy the outdoors. So whatever it is, those those are the things that, for me, right, that brought me the joy. Is the private jets and all that other stuff. You know, I never thought that far, because right now I have to say that I'm very happy in my life. I was invited one time by a student of mine. He became he retired at 30, right, and had probably one of the largest yachts in the harbor here. And he took me on the yacht, and I guess he wanted to show me how impressive it was, and it was impressive. It was various, 3 levels, had 2 rooms on the bottom, and a hot tub on the top, and we went cruising around the inlet. But when I got off, I didn't feel like, oh wow, I have to have that lifestyle, because there's things that I saw in his life that he was struggling with. He had a chronic disease, right, which caused him a lot of pain and so forth. So I thought to myself, hey, I'm lucky, because I think he would give anything to be pain free, like I am, right? So you have to look at, I guess, everything on a whole, rather than just focus on the one thing. And I think that's my message I want to leave to you today. And so I want to hear from all of you. What's the dream that you've been holding on to ever since you were a kid? And does that dream still fit your lifestyle? Are you still trying to chase that dream? Or are you starting to reevaluate that dream probably doesn't fit what you want in life now? Please feel free to share and comment below. And if you like my videos and my content on this channel, please feel free to like, share, or subscribe. And check out my next videos. And I will see you next time. Take care for now. Bye.